Hello everyone and welcome back to the Target Transfers podcast, the #1 heat printing podcast in the world. Today, Andy and I are thrilled to be joined by Martin again, our managing director here at Target. We've managed to pull him in for another podcast episode. Happy to be with us today?
I'm very happy. It's my pleasure, yeah. I've been watching them intently. Fantastic content.
We're going to be talking today a little bit about, because you've been in the industry for a long time, a lot of experience.
Longer than I care to mention, but yeah, a long time.
And you've seen a lot of people come and go through the business. I'm pretty sure you've got some advice for printers that could really help them coming into the new year for 2023. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Yeah. We're also going to talk about why you should enter the print industry rather than any other business. It is a fairly easy industry to get into with the right education, which we are very happy to provide you with here at Target. And other types of heat printing businesses you can start. So giving you some ideas if this is something you've been thinking about doing, some different maybe areas or target markets you could look into, and why now is the perfect time to start a heat printing business. So without further ado, we'll kick off. And have you got any pieces of advice that come to the front of your mind for somebody who's in the print industry going into next year?
Yes, I do. We are going into some uncharted waters in that we're all being told that there's a recession. But in our industry, in my experience over 32, 33 years, is that the entrepreneurial spirit is always alive and kicking, and you see more of it in a downturn. People tend to dig a bit deeper, start to consider their options, and start to invest in education and try and push. I think in every recession we've ever had in this country, I can't speak for every country in the world, but there's always an upspring of new talent and entrepreneurs, either doing a side hustle and expanding on that, or just taking opportunities when they arise. There will be some companies across the nation that don't get through next year. They could have some challenges, but then that leaves in its wake other people to come through. And if they are ready, primed, got the education and the chutzpah to go ahead, they'll actually really do quite well. I think there are some challenges next year for anyone who's in the business or going into it. I think they need to buy as they sell. I think they need to be careful on where they put their money. I wouldn't be here. I run this business and have done for a long time. I would share the principles that I have running this place with everyone who's out there. I wouldn't go investing in large pieces of hungry equipment when it comes to energy. I would be holding back a little bit on that. I am holding a little bit back on that. We are very frugal on if we don't need a piece of equipment, we turn it off. A lot of the equipment that we actually use here in manufacturing doesn't have the whistles and bells that some of the equipment that I sell does. So it doesn't turn itself off if it's not being used. It just sits there burning gas and electric all day and all night. We run a very long shift. So looking at your costs is a real key one for me, for everyone next year and us. If you can get more for your money, if you can turn off the equipment you don't need, hold back on those big investments. Cash is going to be king and emperor next year. So if you can hang on to your cash, not invest too heavily. If I was you, maybe that might only be for a year or two, but it looks like it's going to probably be for a little while. If I could generate income in a more efficient and smarter way, I will and would, and I'd suggest everyone else does that. So if you can hold off big investment, but you can get in quite small, scale it up, only buy what you need, and then when you do buy, you cram orders together. We turn orders really quick to give our customers the opportunity to maybe go a bit slower. They wait till they've got 5 or 6 orders together, gang them, crush them into a sheet. Even for vinyl, for CAD-cut vinyl, if they've got black and white orders, gang them. If you've got a meter of vinyl, put as many orders on that sheet as you possibly can. Use the scraps, do whatever you can. The easiest and quickest way to save money is to reduce your costs. No one's going to grow their sales by 10, 20% next year, but they can definitely save their cost by 10%. Let the incremental savings. That'd be my best advice for anyone next year, is just pay as you go, almost like a sim rather than an expensive iPhone.
That's a good metaphor.
Just keep the cost. Just keep a real eye on those. If you've never had a focus on that, keep focus on your costs next year.
Yeah.
Sure.
And you said something about the heat presses that we have now being efficient in being able to turn themselves on and off. That's not something that people have had the luxury of in the past.
No, and I don't think people have really minded. And if you're really busy, they'll stay on. Every time you touch them and activate them, they're going to stay on. But it's a bit like I'm going to probably keep referring to iPhones. But all modern equipment nowadays has a kind of a power save, a slowdown, that type of thing. And if you're not using the equipment, most of our machines, all the Fusion IQ range, for sure, will all go to sleep. So they're there when you need them, but they're not costing you money when they're not being used, which is essential. Turn it on in the morning and leave it on for 8 hours and it doesn't turn off. That's a lot of money that you're losing. That's all your margins disappearing without you seeing them. So yeah, you've got to keep an eye on that. But yeah, our equipment does that. Not all equipment does, but our equipment does. I just wish the majority of my production equipment did that for me as well, which unfortunately doesn't. The Hotronics don't make those. If only they did.
I think it's a good point. It's just something that has been one of the most important things that our biggest clients have been asking us is how can I be more efficient? How can I bring my costs down? Mostly from a time savings point of view, but advice that I would give to people, especially if you have a moment over Christmas or any quieter periods, actually just to take the time and walk yourself through every point of your business.
Yeah.
Like when an order comes in or before an order comes in, when it comes in, and just follow it around your
check
building.
Your process. You've got to
like,
check
what
your
can
process.
I do smarter at every single point?
Yeah.
Be it cost saving,
We do that.
time
We
saving.
do that daily. We're always. My job is to work on the business, not in it. Is to just keep looking at where the money's being made, where the costs are, and how we can share efficiencies with people. And we're very happy to share. I mean, any tips and tricks we find for efficiencies in our business, we share with customers. I mean, it's in our favour. It seems like we're giving all the secret sauce away, but I mean, we're all in this together.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'd say that one of Martin's big things that he's been working on over the last year or so is to have the flow of product through our transfer manufacturing process. We've expanded a lot over the last 18 months. We've got a lot more machinery. We've got a lot more lines. We've had to move the building around.
Which comes with challenges.
We've got a big warehouse now.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of efficiencies where we've moved every part of the process, partly to make sure our 2-day turnaround is intact. Also, just from a kind of common sense point of view, a lot of it is like, okay.
Yeah, most of it is common sense. I have to say that it's common sense. We're all so busy. We can, even customers, they can get just waylaid in just getting the job done, and all the facets of the business is quite complex. But at the end of the day, you want to get from the concept that's in someone's mind onto a shirt. So even for us, we need to get ink on paper and polyester and through and out the door accurately and efficiently as quickly as possible. And even 2 days is too long, in my opinion. It doesn't take us 2 days to print a transfer, but it takes us that long to get through all the processes. So we're always trying to drill that down. And the quicker something is, the cheaper it becomes to make it. And that's the same for customers as well. So the more efficient they are, I wouldn't want them to see any fresh air on a sheet of transfers or any colour vinyl going in the bin. I would want to see every square inch covered with a graphic that is being sold or as a prospecting piece for another order down the line. It's essential. Next year, more than ever, I think, but they are key principles, really. You shouldn't let your costs run away. You've got to be very careful with that.
Yeah, I think as well, it's something that, like you say, not throwing the scraps away, even if you hold on to them for 6 months or even longer. Vinyl we're talking about here, obviously not transfers, because you order those like specifically for your designs. But you never know when you're going to need them, and you might throw them away and then 2 months later go, I could have used that, and now I've got to buy another meter, and all things like that you say can reduce your costs overall.
Thrifty in a business is a quality. It's not. It shouldn't be overlooked. It's a real quality in life. You look after your business like your grand would look after everything. As thrifty as possible. Make amends and make do and make the most of what you've got, especially going into what is perceived to be a bit of a rocky period next year. Fantastic opportunity, but keep an eye on your costs and you'll thrive.
Yeah.
Those who don't do that will really suffer. I think they'll really suffer. Their money will be burning away in equipment that they hoped last year was a good idea to get, and it could really hurt them, which I'm not happy about. I mean, if we could educate the world and help more people, we would, and I would, because I don't want to see anybody suffer, because it's a short-term situation next year, probably. But we want everyone to come out thriving at the other end of it.
Yeah, well, it's what we do as a business, isn't it? Every day. I mean, we talk to customers on how to help them become more efficient, how to produce high quality products. Everything that we do is to help our customers.
Really,
yeah, but obviously the better our customers do, the better we do. So it's not just a case of your favorite analogy that you always tell me is the whole white picket fence thing. And you go, we want to build a relationship and actually have that long-term relationship with a customer.
Long-term relationship with customers,
and that's not just a one-time sale, and it's the same, I suppose, for our customers
long-term
and
value
their
of them
customers
and their long-term value of their customers as well. So the big challenge that most customers will have is if they have to cut back on costs too far and they cut them back in the wrong area, their quality will drop and then they won't get repeat business. And everything in life is about, everything in business for me is about repeat business, but that comes down to loyalty, quality and continuous support. And we need to help them do that. But it's a very easy thing to do, save costs. When you start looking, I could save anyone 10%. Sit down for an hour because I could save you 10%.
There you go. That's a challenge for anyone listening. If you can save 10% of your business.
10%. It's such an easy thing to do. It's just that, you know, life is complex and busy, and even companies have subscriptions like you would at home with phones and Netflix and Apple and things like that. Businesses have them, so you can cut them back. There's a lot of things you can do, for sure. Yeah. For sure.
I want to touch on the print on demand thing that you mentioned just now. I think that's something that a lot of people need to be thinking about doing if they're not already. And it might not have been, not a lot of people do it as far as I can see, as far as we see on socials every day, our customers talking to our account managers, that kind of thing. And I think maybe it's because of the way you used to order transfers. It wasn't so easy as order one sheet and it arrives in 2 days. You used to have to order the whole thing, you'd print it and get it out to the customer. But now you can literally wait for the orders to come in before you print the transfers. And we were talking to Danielle yesterday on another podcast episode about utilizing mock-ups and templates and things, so you don't even have to make the product before you sell it.
I think as long as customers are transparent with their customers, say this is just a simulation of what it would look like. If you want to commit, we'll make a shirt for you. You don't have to spend money to get a concept. You don't have to, especially with all the whistles and bells like Canva and fantastic bits of software that are out there that are free and easy to do. I think most people have kind of latched onto that, but you don't need loads of samples. If you can prove that you can do a football shirt or a school shirt, it's obvious you could do workwear. So you don't need, I see customers that have got thousands of pounds worth of high-vis vests, jackets, coats, Dickies trousers, lots of expense. They probably spent a couple of £1,000, but they really didn't need to. You can say to someone, I can do anything on textile, and say, can you do high vis? The chances are you haven't got the high vis vest they want anyway. So all of those things you can pull back on. And yeah, it's quicker and easier to deliver a visual over an email and a text and Teams and Zoom and one of the other 1,000 ways that we can all communicate now. It looks more polished, you know. All of the third-party suppliers of garments will allow you to mock up with their designs anyway from the trade. Mm-hmm. But it's a much quicker and easier way. Yeah, it's a good point. Marketing, you can compete with the big boys now with marketing. Anybody with a little bit of inkling online for free across social channels and email, you can create wonderful concepts and send them out, and you can compete with the high street stores for perfection and sharpness and speed. If they want a sample, they can buy one, can't they?
How do you think transfer technology has changed a lot in the last couple of years, especially since sort of I've been here, Andy's been here? We've seen obviously Ultra Colour come out. Now we've got DTF, which is one minimum order, which is just unheard of in this industry. How do you think that has affected how people run their businesses, and moving into next year, how they can take advantage of all of those benefits?
Well, our long-term goal was to give everybody what they wanted when they wanted it, how they needed it. But that was easier said than done. So we thought long and hard about how you supply those prints to people and how quick they really would need them. So we, like I said earlier, we're trying to get our production down to hours and a day, not 2 or 3. So the goal was, the quicker that we can give the customer what they asked for, the quicker they can deliver it, the quicker they can offer it to their customer, the quicker the customer can say, I need more. Or someone's just been hired, I need another high-vis jacket, blah, blah. Or they find out, like we just had this morning, they've missed a school leaver. Can they get another print? They've missed one of the children from a class, which is heartbreaking for the school. It's heartbreaking for the child. So, yeah, absolutely, you can get that done with Ultra Colour Max. We could do that. So it meant that they could say yes to every job. They never really need to say, no, it's too late. They can place their order on a Saturday night or Sunday night, get it delivered to them by the Tuesday, Wednesday, get a reorder in if they need to. And by the end of the week, they've had maybe 1 or 2 reorders they've uplifted the order, created more, turned it quick, invoiced it quicker, been able to get paid quicker, great for cash flow for them, and then go and repeat. So we took what was a 3-4 day turnaround in office hours into a way that they could order like they would a Moonpig card or a calendar on Funky Pigeon, that type of thing. Keep it as simple as possible, make it as user-friendly as people are used to in their domestic life as consumers. Give them visualizers so they can see it, so there's no doubt on what they're going to get back. Give it to them, commit and honor the promise. We're going to do it in 2 days. You're going to get it in 2 days. You're going to be able to do what we tell you can do. We're going to film it and show you how to fuse it. This is what it looks like, so that they had no doubt. Because if you're running a business and you're dependent on another supplier, there's a lot of what ifs, concerns and worries, and a lack of control. It's a bit like ordering a taxi and hoping it turns up. The big thing about modern technology with the biggest cab companies, there's many out there, but say Uber for one, it's because you know when it's coming, you know who the driver is, and you know how much it's going to be. You're not going to get fleeced. It's just, there's no fear. The fear wasn't getting taxis. The fear was not knowing if it turned up. And I'll go back and have another beer or watch the rest of the TV show until it turns up. Because you now know when it's going to arrive, you can plan your time. And if you're a sole trader, that's everything. Because you don't have to worry about the transfers. You placed it Sunday night. You know, Monday you've got things to do. If you could come and collect it Monday evening, but you can plan your week. You haven't got to put everything on hold, not knowing. So we found that that's essential, really. That's helping.
I would say as well is that for a lot of the people listening, the feedback from your prospective customers that we've had sort of fed to us is that turn time is everything. And there's so many people that we've helped over the last few years bringing their turn time down, because that is a competitive advantage to getting more business in. If you can turn things from, like, take it from, say, 2 weeks, the whole process from 2 weeks to 1 week, it's everything. That's how it could be enough to clinch the order in the first place.
They could turn 20 times more work in a month, really, couldn't they?
Yeah.
And I know of some customers that they've maybe taken a small order or it's school leavers, but within 2 or 3 hours of receiving it, they knew it was coming. They got a prompt from DPD saying it's en route. It's this many stops away. They turn their press on, you know, dinner's ready. I mean, the transfers turn up, the shirt's fused and they're going out warm, and they can supply them within a couple of hours. But, you know, it's a bit like having some maintenance on a boiler. They say between 10 in the morning and 6 at night. That's no good, is it? You've got to put your life on hold. So, and we deal with a lot of sole traders. They you know, time is everything to them. They got to wear many hats. So, it has been, I mean, and I just want to make it quicker for them, quicker, more efficient, as easy as possible, as fluid. You know, we're just an extension of them. So the communication needs to be on point, really.
Yeah, so it's not really just about how quickly you can get the order out the door. It's how many orders you can produce per day or per week. So regardless of how quickly you get it to the customer, it's also about how much profit you can make per month. Like we did the productivity video, obviously, about cutting your time down. So that has a massive impact as well. And the way that people have ordered transfers has changed as well in the last. How long have we had EasyView now? A year, 2 years?
Over 2 years.
Over 2 years.
Yeah, two and a bit. Yeah, that was quite a dramatic change for us. I mean, it was an essential one for us. I mean, we're all consumers at heart, aren't we, outside of work? So we've all bought things on Amazon and had full communication. You don't have to ring Amazon and ask you where your parcel is. That's all automated. And we're in a creative graphic industry. So there's not really any different between one of us ordering on Funky Pigeon, any of those types of sites anyway. So it became really clear to us that even though it's business, it doesn't need to be stale. It needs to be contemporary. We need to kind of bring the Deliveroo Uber tech to a point into what we do, and have a lot more communication with our customer, but not delay their day, not get in their way. So our orders used to be email in. We'd look at the file. Hopefully it was the file the customer intended to send.
I bet that was a disaster if they sent the wrong one. Have you ever printed them wrong
because
before?
a lot of people called the file transfers.
Oh, that's helpful.
Yeah, so you didn't actually know really what it was. So you had to describe it to each other, which sounds crazy. I mean, this is going back a few years. Then we would agree on what that would be suitable for. We'd send it to the studio. Studio would decide if it was of quality and it was suitable for the process that the customer intended. There'd be lots of ping pong emails, phone calls going back and forwards, just to clarify, just to make sure what you sent is what we received. It'll look how you expect it. You need to take that on faith if you've never used us before. You know, we've been at it a long time, but you don't know what a transfer will look like. And it's a different media to an email and, you know, printed sheet. So it could look slightly different. in their eyes. So we thought we need to make this completely transparent. So we have an online portal called EasyView. And basically, it was just a way of visually translating what the customer intended us to print, but they see it. They upload it. It's not just an attachment name. They see it in its glory. It counts the colors. It tells you the size. It tells you the instant price. You can walk away and decide not to buy. You can forward that visual and send it to your customer, change the base color and say it's going on to bright yellow hoodies, send that to your customer via email, your colleagues, your friends, whoever you need to. We don't need to get involved with that unless you want us to. Then you can place your order. If you pay, and if you pay there and then, if you're on account, the order goes straight in, straight through, is dynamically checked for data, color, font, all that good stuff, quality of resolution, and goes straight to the studio. We don't get in the way of it. You know, we used to get in the way of ourselves. It goes straight through to production. So someone's sitting there and it's the next one they see, they open it, they artwork it. It could be in production within 10, 15 minutes. So for us, we took out all the barriers we had, gave the customers fluid visual eyes on their own file. We knew exactly what they were sending. We were looking at identically the same file on the same platform. And it made perfect sense. Now, I know feedback that I personally get, and I hear from the customer service team, is that that isn't the case in the industry still. People are still trying to catch up with that. And it really does create a lot more questions and delays and anxiety, which is like the Uber thing. You know the cab is coming, so you relax. Whereby you ring a cab in the past, you didn't know if it's going to turn up. So you're kind of working blind. When you look back at it, you're working blind if you can't physically see the graphic file that you've sent to a graphic company to print. If you upload a picture, a photograph of someone, put it on a calendar on Moonpig or whatever it be, you see it instantly. You know what you're getting. You know who's on January, who's on February, who's on March. You know, it's super simple and quick and easy. It takes a lot of thinking and technology behind the scenes, but it works perfectly. And what we found is it probably reduced, 30, 40,000 phone calls and emails a year that customers didn't want to make anyway.
That was going to be my next point, that it's not just more transparent, but it's quicker and it's much easier.
It's quicker. It's it puts you at ease. If I buy something for this company, it's a large enterprise here, I want to get eyes on it, but I can spend hundreds of thousands of pounds on equipment, and I've seen it at a trade show, or I've seen a video of them making it, but I haven't really seen it until it arrives. And if I could get, like I was saying about the Hottronics and making my machines out in production, if I could get eyes, if every industry was like that and it was completely transparent, you saw what you got before you bought it, it took all the questions away and you just went, order, give it to me. I want it as quick as possible. You then, once you've got that faith, you repeat. Because there's no hidden agenda. There's no, I wasn't sure if I should ask that question. Yeah, we tried to make it as simple as possible. And it has paid dividends, and the feedback from customers is great. I'm glad we did it. I wish I'd done it earlier, but,
We've got it now.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing.
Well, one thing that might be quite useful for everyone listening is obviously this is something that, like I said, no one else in the UK is offering true online ordering for heat transfers. It was quite, even though I'm sure many people listening will be like, it just makes sense to do that. But it was quite a disruptive thing to do.
Yeah, it was.
But first we had to disrupt ourselves.
We did.
To do it.
Yeah, we were happy to do that. I mean, we're not comfortable. And I'm quite happy to not be comfortable. I like be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
You don't grow when you're comfortable, is the impression.
You do not. And I know it's a bit of a cliche, and it's said a lot, is that once you get used to it, nothing is that scary. Nothing, I think I say to you guys and the rest of the team, you can't break anything. You can physically break, I could break this, but you can't.
Please don't.
No, you can't really break the process. And if you accelerate your mistakes and you try, you find you learn quicker. So if you make mistakes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, by Friday, you've got a better solution. But if you don't take a chance, you don't know, do you? So yeah, we did disrupt it for the right reasons, because we could see that customers, I think I had a list of probably 120 steps that we were going through. Some of them were mini steps, but they could all go away. There was no reason for them to be there anymore, but it was because we'd always done it like that. And like you said, there's a lot of people in our industry and similar ones who are still doing form filling to a level that you think, but you know who I am. Why have I got to put my name in? That's my address. there's dynamic ways on websites the address can be pulled in anyway. I want to see all my files I've given you. I don't want to check through 10,000 emails. I want to go and look at a portal. I want to do what I do with my gas bill, my Sky account. I want to do all those things. But why is it that business has to be a dinosaur and my domestic life on my phone is all singing and all dancing? So we were kind of ahead of the curve, but behind general census that people wanted that kind of technology. So it was overdue, but we had to disrupt our own model, and it was for the better for customers for sure.
I would say, going back to your point earlier about trying to find time savings, money savings, is that if you could do one thing after listening to this podcast, is just go back away and write down ways you could disrupt yourself afterwards, and think about what you can do, and just having that mindset of being comfortable with disruption, because it nearly always leads to an aha moment of like, okay, or some clarity about what we really need to be doing, or what you listening need to be doing to help your customers as well.
Yeah, and one thing that fascinates me as I get older and hopefully a bit wiser is that business, it doesn't matter what business you're in, it's all fairly similar really. You're trying to fulfill a need, fix a problem, and the processes that other industries that you would think are not related to yours are quite common. So when you dissect the fact that we import the Hotronics machines from our brothers and sisters in the US and we ship them out. So we're not the only people that import things and ship things. And how do people do that quickly? So I would go off and look at companies like Amazon and others and think big, think huge. How do they do it really efficiently? I don't want to make any mistakes. I want to learn from all the ones they fixed. We're not quite there yet. We haven't got robots, but we will get there one day. And with production, we're trying to produce something that only takes a certain amount of time to do. But then when you look at the process that we would have had in the past and others have got, you think, but it sits on a desk, then it sits on this desk. It sits in dead spots for longer than it's actually being touched. Well, how do they can beans and make bars of chocolate? It's just a conveyor, isn't it? It's a short distance, continuous line, a few steps and stages as possible. Yes, there's lots of conveyors in there, but if you can shorten the distance, and we've got customers that have a cargo door, they have the t-shirts come in, if you're using rooms on the second floor, they take all the shirts upstairs, they bring all the shirts downstairs and ship them out. You think, just move the press. They're really easy things, but you think, well, the press room's always been up there because the people that work up there love that, and the plugs are there. You think, well, it's cheaper to move the plugs than it is to pay salaries and get a forklift and yada yada, all the logistics of that. So it is looking at all of those costs and comparing yourself against other businesses, and even asking us questions. When you guys do your lives, ask the questions, we'll answer them. We're part of a big group with lots of different moving parts, and we're very happy to share all the knowledge that we've gained over the last 90 years.
It's funny, isn't it? Because it's almost like when you make those changes, you can't imagine doing it any other way. Like, I can't imagine not using EasyView for people to order their transfers now. Like, how else would that be done? And it's going backwards, if anything, isn't it? We've almost just stepped into the standard we should have been at.
We all have, some people are more successful, some people are quicker with aptitude of doing things. They've already got a building they can work in, but we've all got 24 hours. What can you do with the 24 hours? You've got to try and do a little bit more or reduce your costs within that period. So anything that we can do, and we are, the next incarnation of EasyView and other benefits are kind of in the pipeline. So anything that we can do to, give people better tools to make things quicker for themselves and get more sales for them, that's the better, really. That's my goal for 2023. Andy's smiling because he knows some of the projects, but everything is really with the customer.
You're making me nervous now.
No, they're all good things. It takes a lot of planning and thinking, but most of our direction for 2023 is education, tools and tips for people just to improve what they're currently doing, and go heavy on that. Really go for it, more than we've ever done, really, just to help them out, because we see that that's a real gap for them. We need to help people more.
So obviously, you mentioned there's going to be more education for people about printing, how to start a business, I'm assuming, how to create good products, all of the stuff we'll talk about.
Cradle to grave, but, really cover every aspect.
Yeah.
Because we get a real variation of questions, because we're in a very creative industry where the marketplace is everywhere. It is schools, workwear, work, rest and play. I think that was a Mars slogan. But it's everywhere. It's during your day, it's your evenings, your weekends, and your leisure time, and it covers all of those markets. So there is, a vast. The principles of business are the same. You've got to make more than you spend. That you could apply that to anything. Have fun doing it as well. That's a big thing for me. You've got to have some fun doing it, or it's really not worth it. But there are lots of lessons to be shared with people, and we are going to try and orchestrate those so that they're in a very logical rollout for people.
So would you say that now is the right time or the best time to consider starting a heat printing business, or to consider breaking into the industry?
I think the best time was last week. I think they used to say that about property. I don't think that would be the same for next year. I'd gain you not as much knowledge as possible, but like I was trying to say, newspapers and TV networks, they have to fill time, so they have to share with news. I think there's been one day in all the years of the BBC where there was no news. There was once no news. They just played music. There was no news. And some days there isn't any news, but they sell advertising and they want to pump you with fear and anxiety and everything else for one reason or another. But it's never as bad as they think. It'll be a bit tough next year, but it will go away. It's not like a pandemic, which is life-threatening. It is less serious. We've got to say that it's less serious than what we've all been through.
Heat printing is fun at the end of the day. I know it can be stressful if you're running a business, but it is enjoyable.
It's super creative, and there are so many opportunities out there, and I think they're only going to expand because we've come through lockdown. Events are on, concerts, sporting events are bigger than ever. There's a massive want, and some of the big branding companies out there are making huge investments. We know that all around the world. It's going to absolutely explode. And you can tap into any of those markets once you found your niche, once you found your golden market area. You'll thrive. You'll absolutely thrive, and we'll be there to help you through it.
Have you got any specific target markets or niches that come to the forefront of your mind? You mentioned about different areas you can get into that are going to grow over the next year or two.
I think a real untapped one, and we've seen it the last couple of years, and there's quite a few people in the industry that work on this, but I would advise everyone to look at repeating business. There's nothing harder if you're a sole trader or a small business you go and get the sale, you fulfill the sale, you invoice for the sale, and then you have to go and find another one. If you're dealing with, say you're in an area like Braintree, there's lots of chimney pots. There's about 15 schools from primary school, secondary to fire school. Within 15 miles of here, there's a university, a couple of colleges. There is enough income in the sector to do school leaver, school trip, sports days, events, drama club, geography club, all those types of things. There's enough income for a small business to run just off the back of that. And you won't get all the business that you wouldn't expect to. Then you look at all the businesses that you can work with, that they've got members of staff that will churn, building sites, merchants that sell sand and aggregate and things like that. I've got builders coming in every day. They wear high-vis vests. They're very quick and easy to print. They lose them. They get damaged. They can't go on site without them. That's repeating business. It's not a one-off. If you look at sports locally, if they have the school, they have the sports events, they've all got sports uniforms. There is a restriction on how many logos go onto school wear now to give parents a bit of a break, so it's not too expensive. But you've probably got every school blazer could be embroidered with a heat seal badge on that. And you've got all of the teams like rugby, football. I know where I live, there's about 60, 70 teams, football teams in one club for all the ages, from tots up to like men's. And so you've got hoodies, sweatshirts, tracksuits. It's a lot of badges, and if they're gang together, you can make really good money out of that. So,
everyone's not just gonna. January 1st, everyone just starts wearing black t-shirts, and we're all wearing the same thing, are we? There's always going to be something that needs a heated embellishment to go onto it.
It is, and we're human beings, but we just want to associate with our tribe. If that's young fitness brand, or it's humorous, it's a rock band, or it's political statement, whatever it be, And in England, I mean, it's getting warmer, but we live in a country where you're not going to walk around in trunks and flip-flops all day. So there'll always be T-shirts, there'll always be hoodies, always be sweatshirts. And branding is just ballooned, it's grown. In all my years, it's bigger than it's ever been. The options for blanks that are out there are immense and very trendy, very on point. They're not, you could always just be able to tell the difference between a promo shirt and something you'd find in a shop. But now there's just a kind of a complete blurring of lines. So yeah, it's a huge business. I mean, I think we're just getting going here, and we've been going at it for a long time. I think it's huge, absolutely huge industry.
I think that's a good point about people wanting to associate with their tribe or their band as well, because I think that's something that we've noticed a lot over the last couple of years, with, especially with the new customers that we've brought on, is that there's so many more niches that have opened up, and a lot of people want to be very specific with their interests. They've had, especially during the pandemic, where there's lots of times you just sit and think and explore and find more people like yourself in some ways.
Yeah.
And I think that probably that's something that will be true next year. If you know, there would be certain things that will be harder, but a way of escaping that is to find and kind of double down on your own personal interests. So if you're providing clothing for a brand, for instance, you might find that actually they are more successful next year because they've got more people wanting to have some sort of escapism through their clothing or through a shared interest they have with that brand.
Yeah, and smart people, younger smart people, there with one of the greatest things about social media for me, looking at it with teenage children, is that everyone can find their people when it comes to tribe, and the niche is tighter than a niche I would have expected years ago. You'd say niche, it's either schools or sports, but it's a niche within a niche within a niche.
There's so many we haven't heard of now either. Like Phil from 34 North, who came on, was talking about bobsled. I had no idea what that was.
Well, we don't get a lot of snow, so I understand that. But
then what was Danielle's one from yesterday?
Disc golf.
Just all the sports. They're just there's so many of them now.
Yeah, life is rich, isn't it? And there's so many niches, and you don't need to be selling high ticket items. I think a lot of people come along and they think, oh, okay, I'm going to do a brand and I'm going to sell a hoodie for £75. You think there's a reason why some of those brands sell at that price. One, the quality is of, a real high level. And they've spent a lot of time on marketing, and it's a lifestyle. But in the niche market, it's more about kind of repeat. We spoke about a young lady yesterday on a social channel. Her following was immense. And that was super niche, wasn't it? Super niche.
Yeah, really, really niche. And she was just making one-off T-shirts. She was just having a bit of fun with, and it was just
primarily on TikTok.
Yeah, and she's getting like 2 million views per video off the back of it.
Using the equipment. I mean, it's just incredible. It's just incredible. But yeah, I mean, there are riches in niches. I mean, it's a cliche, but it's true. If you try and do what everyone else is doing and follow the herd, you'll get a share of a very small percentage. So take a bit of time to find your niche in your goldmine area. It doesn't have to be where you live. Chimney pots is always a good sign, in that it means that there are people below this chimney pots that wear clothing. So, if they're families of 3s and 4s, they've probably got schools. So, And
the great thing is that everyone who's listening, all of their customers always will need to have branding on their top, like say with the builders, etc. They need to be wearing branding. They can't go turning up plain clothes, because they won't get the referral business either.
No.
So they're always they might be that they let it go for 60 washes instead of 50.
Yeah.
But they're always going to come back to you, and they'll always need that. So if you can make sure that you're providing a good enough service, you will continue to find that money coming in.
Yeah. I mean,
more.
when you talk about branding as well, people might think that means the logo of the manufacturer on the outside, but you've also got kind of ID. So it's, so I don't steal your high vis. Yeah. So you've got your initials on it, and it's got the maker's name in it or the promotion of it. So yeah, it's just identity for textiles, isn't it? It's the name on the front, the contractor's name on the back, because he wants a bit of PR. It's conditional that they give it to them. They can't have them work in an environment where they don't have health and safety clothing, that type of thing. But if they don't brand it, it's seen as a gift. So the company needs to own it. So they need to decorate it. They need to put something on it, so it's not seen as a taxable benefit in kind, I guess, for employees. So yeah, there's a lot of very clever business. I mean, if you sit down, even if you're in your 20s and you've been through school, uni, had a couple of jobs, you lived in your local community for many years, you know a lot of people in a lot of sectors. And, just start knocking on doors and asking people, if I did this, would you be interested? You get enough yeses, then you create your virtual samples. Then you commit to a sample, but you don't have to dive straight in and burn money. I mean, it's any fool can spend money.
So your first step isn't to buy the heat press then? Your first step is to map out your business plan and get some customers?
Never, not unless you've already got one. And then you know how to monetize it. But yeah, I mean, I know you guys have really covered it in some length on other discussions, but starting in the right way is essential, really. You need a bit of a plan and a goal, and just to work it out. Sit down, make some notes. But hopefully, we'll be able to support you all with more of that in the coming months, especially next year. Try and get you everyone starting in the right place.
So I guess one of the most important questions is ultimately why would you want to start a heat printing business? What is so great about being in this industry? You've obviously been in it for over 30 years now. What was it that you recommend to everyone?
In the early days, it used to feel that it was more creative people, that core creative people. They were airbrushers, painters, illustrators. They just wanted to get their work. They weren't selling it in a frame. They wanted to put it on a shirt and sell it that way. But more so in recent years has been people just looking for a little bit of a creative outlet, but just a bit more independence. We've had some super successful. I mean, I'm blown away by some of their results where people have started in Garden Shed, gone to a slightly bigger building and then on. But because you can scale it, you just need another press, another machine, maybe some staff. You don't need to run a business 40 hours a week. You just don't have to do that in this industry. So if you made a list of all the businesses that you'd have to do, it's not weather dependent. So it's not like landscape gardening. It's creative. You haven't got to use paints and things and wait for them to dry and then try and sell them in a market. It's scalable, smaller. You can get in for very little money. The education to nurture it can take a little while, but the basics of it you can learn in 10, 15 minutes. The actual hands-on within an afternoon with a heat press, you would learn how to achieve it, how to apply it. There's lots of video content out there. So it's one of those industries where we've all tried very hard to educate people. The education is mainly free. It's just your time. It's got low bar to entry. It hasn't got to cost you too much money. You haven't got to invest loads. It's not like thousands and thousands of pounds like a franchise. You've got to spend, you're contracted to something. You can stop and give up, move forward, accelerate, slow down, do whatever you want. It's very easy for you to market and sell the business. Everyone knows what t-shirt is. Everyone knows what print is. Most people have already got their logo designed. You're just supplying a service to them. You can scale it up if you choose to. If you're super creative, you can bolt on, so you can sell your own artwork. There are very few no's, very few barriers to entry. It's scalable, so you can pass it to someone else and go on holiday and fulfill it. You can turn it on and off, and socially and on the internet nowadays, you compete with the big boys. So you can sell on Amazon, Etsy, your own Shopify site. You can go through, there are people, I've known people that have started on some of the reselling sites for print, and then they've decided, actually, this is doing quite well. I want to retain some of that margin. They started doing it for themselves. So from their phone or an iPad or a laptop, in their bedroom, bathroom, on the bus, on the train, they can set it up, they can market it, they can have a life, they can place their orders 24/7, 365, whenever they want. They can supply it and deliver it when they want. They could make Friday afternoons their shipping day. It's completely independent. They've got complete flexibility. And I think, especially going through COVID and coming out the other side, I think people are saying, I kind of fancy a side hustle, I fancy a hobby that could make me some money, which is a business in my book. Hobbies you don't make money out of a hobby. I think it's just completely scalable and so easy to get into. And I think with all the marketing that is done, I think people can they've really started to see that. It's not alien to them. They've seen it or heard about it now. So I think that's why people jump in so quickly. And we've got there's some great people on social media that are talking about how they're making a great success and being independent.
I think that's a really good point, actually, is that for those that are listening that are thinking about starting a heat printing business or thinking about getting into it, is that like other perhaps career shifts or career moves where you might have to just like, you've got to almost like pull the band-aid off and go and jump straight into something else. This is not what we're telling you to do.
No, I would never tell anyone to quit their day job.
Actually, you can buy a heat press for starting at £425, so small investment. Or you could put, if you're spending over £1,000, you could put someone out on finance as well. So you could really spread those costs if you really over 2-3 years.
Yeah, cash is king. Keep your money.
Yeah. So that way you could spend month 1, you could spend 2 hours a week. And then month 2, you could spend 4 hours a week. We're trying to, if you have enough business to start and go straight into full time, then fantastic. But we're, as part of that kind of sensible planning of how you should approach things, is actually the great thing about heat printing is it can be like a tap. You can turn it on and off.
Yeah,
basically.
I mean, and for me, people like to buy from people they know, like, and trust. And you might need some T-shirts. I mean, if I knew someone who did a funky pigeon card, I'd go to them. I'd want to keep it local and give somebody I knew, liked, and trusted the money. They're great companies, but I don't know them. So most people say, I have no idea where to go for this type of thing in my town or city. So I just go online and Google it. And I have no idea where it's made. I kind of don't know what I'm going to get until it arrives. But I'd rather probably give it to someone more local. Yeah. So, the opportunities are huge. Half the time people don't achieve their goals in life is because they just don't take a chance. But I'd never say to anyone, quit your job and do this. Let it pay for itself, and then it'll tell you if it's the right time. I don't think that's ever good advice to throw in a job that you may enjoy. You never know. I know a few people that actually do really quite well in a main job, and then they've got a side hustle that is, it's quite incredible, really, what they achieve. Huge sales.
We've had some questions from some of our customers, or I did a question box on Instagram yesterday, actually, to ask people what they wish they'd have known when they started their printing business. So I'm going to read, I've got 3 or 4 here that I just want to read out and get your opinion or advice on. So the first one was to invest in good quality garments from the offset. Do you think that's completely necessary, or do you think it's worth testing on a few different ones, or do you just dive straight in with quality? Because obviously you want to provide products to your customers that they like, the feel, the longevity of it. You don't want to risk going in with cheap ones if that means non-repeat business.
To people that they buy products from a wholesaler that they can repeat and get that again and again and again. You can go to high street stores and buy things, but you're never guaranteed that it's there again because seasons change, so the color could change. So if it's a school, for instance, you really need to stick to it. If the quality of the garment is of better quality, the quality of the print is better, the rejection percentage from customers is low or non-existent, the error rate is lower, they don't shrink, they don't stretch or tear, because the manufacturers who make blanks for decoration are selling to the trade, so they have a different level of expectation and standard. They're not expensive. They're really not expensive. You from the top of the range to the bottom of the range of even a blank from a wholesale retailer, there's not much. There's probably £1 or £2 difference, if that, but it does make all the difference. So I would say it does pay. You need to get advice on that. I know we've got some great content on that, and we are very honest and sincere about that. All the brands that we work with are because they're proven. They're proven first, and then we work with these people and these brands and these companies. So if we advise or other industry leaders advise, there is a reason for that. So I would say it's your canvas that your paint is going on, your creative work is going on to. So the better that is, and the better the print that goes on top of it, the more chance you've got of repeat business, better margins, and happy customers, which is what you want, really.
There's a difference in price between cheap and premium. Like I said, it really isn't much. And if that's part of the identity of your brand, it's definitely worth paying for.
Yeah, if you can go out and promote and say the quality of the decoration will wash 50, 60 plus washes, the garment won't shrink, it won't do this, it won't do that, it won't fray, it won't fall apart, and it'll be good. It'll hold its color, and you can repeat and buy this shirt again this year, next year, and the year after, forever and a day, within reason. If our customers tell their customers that, they go, okay, well, again, it's that reassurance thing. I haven't got to worry about this. I haven't got to worry about that. It's not going to fall off in the wash. It's going to stay on. It's not going to shrink. and I can get them at the end of the school year when XX need more. So yeah, I mean, it's quite critical really, but there's only two things, isn't there? There's the decoration and the garment. So if you get those two things nailed, and the decoration method, you understand that well, you can really thrive. And just repeat. A good t-shirt for a school is no different to a good t-shirt for a workwear t-shirt. So you stick to some core brands, you dial in your recipe, you know they work. You can scale that and teach your team if you have one. It just makes life so much simpler and easier. I'd stick to 2 or 3 brands for t-shirts, 2 or 3 brands for hoodies and jackets, and probably kind of leave it there. We can direct you to those in notes in this podcast or others, but yeah, keep it simple, but of quality, and then you'll find there's no rejects, and you haven't got to spend time and energy trying to apologize to people.
Wholesale t-shirts are designed to be decorated as well, which I think is quite
It's their core purpose.
But I would encourage everyone who's thinking about it to buy a cheap £2 t-shirt from a supermarket and try and decorate onto it, and do that at the same time with a slightly better product. Wash them both, and you'll see after sort of 5-10 washes where the difference is. And
we're a very polite nation. So if the customer's customer has a problem, they will probably, that'll result in them not coming back, but you won't know that why. So you don't learn from it. So you just keep repeating the problem until someone comes in and complains.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that we get with application is people say, I've said it 1,000,001 times before, but with things like pressure, time, temperature, we go over it all the time. People will apply a transfer to a t-shirt. Well, not all of our customers, obviously. Most of you follow the recipe very, very well. But some of them do tend to apply a transfer wrong, but it goes on okay. And they go, oh yeah, but that's fine. But it's not, it comes off in, I don't know, if you don't apply it properly, we can't guarantee the 60+ washes if you haven't followed our instruction, and you don't see that in 10-20 washes when it comes off and the customer thinks it's a bad product. No, that's not what they see when they ship it out the door.
To fail in the customer's hands.
Yeah, but that's what happens, and that's what they don't see. So I think that's a really important thing to think about.
Yeah, it's key. You want to kind of nip that in the bud before it happens, really.
Yeah.
Deal with the root cause of a problem, which is usually the blank. It's the quality's not quite there.
Yeah. Another one we had was gang sheets. Obviously, that's a big one for people. Definitely need to be gang sheet in your designs.
10 years ago, we didn't offer it because we thought everybody wanted a small cut sheet. But what we found was that if you take a square piece of paper that's 10 by 10 and you put a circle badge on it, without trying, there's already about 30% worth of waste there. And we had to cover the cost of the paper. So what we say to people is gang it, nest them in. If you've got ease, try and nudge them in. As long as you can get a knife between it, you will find that, we leave millions of pounds on the table every year because we do gang sheets, but it facilitates business that we probably wouldn't have got, but it fuels customers up a chance to actually make a profit. So we do it because it's a long-term philosophy that pays dividends to the customer and hopefully pays dividends to us. They could go elsewhere after that, but it does make a massive difference. Like I said earlier, next year it's never been more critical to cut costs and make sure that you're on your numbers, your numbers.
And we don't charge for gang sheets. It's something worth noting as well.
Yeah, we don't charge any more for it. If it's an A3 one large print, it is what it is. But if you can get as many on there as possible, and because we turn things quick, I would say prepare it and then wait, because there's always another job that comes, you go, oh, I wish I had put that on. And you'll find, especially with ultra color, which is multiple colors, you can put black, white, multicolored designs on it, do what you want. I've got customers, I've seen sheets, I've stopped looking now, but I was running a little mental competition in my head. There were some customers that had 122 logos on an A3 sheet, and you think that's 100. They're probably all going on a t-shirt or a polo. There's easily £600-700 worth of sales from probably a £60 transfer print job. It's unbelievable. And you think, well, fair play. We allowed it, but you're a gold medalist.
Making the most of it, yeah.
You've really rinsed us there, but fantastic.
I love seeing it when people tag us in their gang sheet orders on socials and they show us what they've been doing, and it is like a bit of a competition now as to which customer can get more designs on their sheet. A blade
or a pair of scissors between it, full power to you. You should do what you can.
Yeah, we've made that mistake before. We've all made that mistake before. Another one we had was about leaving enough time between ordering and shipping. So I know obviously our turnaround time is 2 days, but we've had situations before where the courier companies have either been late or things have been delayed, and customers then are running on a bit of a tight turnaround from what they promised their customers. Even if everything runs smoothly, we produce the transfers in 2 days, it gets sent within a day, it's at your door, you can fuse it and send it out the same day. That doesn't always happen. Once it leaves us, we don't have control over the courier.
No,
so it's worth giving yourself a bit of leeway if you have it.
Yeah, we're in crazy times. I mean, obviously, we don't send anything via the post because we can't really kind of track it, and they're having their own troubles. So we do put through couriers, and we've dealt with every courier in the land. We look after the drivers, just for people. Please use the facilities, get a coffee if you have time. But it's a tough business that they're in there. They've got to do lots of pickup, lots of drops. And like you said, when it leaves here in good faith, we pay for the service. Customer pays their part, and it hopefully gets delivered. But sometimes there are delays. But what that also does is it reminds us of how critical the turn is, the quick turn, because people are saying, "I've got this planned. I've actually got staff in, and it hasn't turned up yet." So obviously, there's not much that we can do. Even if we printed it again to try and help them out, it's still going to get to wherever. Is that people are planning our customers and new ones that are coming on board all the time are planning their day and week and month around the deliveries. So they expect it to turn up because they've turned the machines on and they're ready. So it is a tough one. We don't control that. If Hottronics could make lorries and we could hire the drivers, it would be ideal. But there's so many customers in so many parts of the country, we just can't do that. But yeah, it's a challenge.
I would say for anyone listening that's never ordered transfers, that it's 99.5% of the time. It's
definitely,
because we build those relationships. Coming back around to business efficiencies is actually we tested every single courier to get transfers placed on time to make sure that we have the most reliable, the quickest, because we know that turnaround is important. So that it's only a rare occasion when that would happen. Yeah,
and in the background, we are always hustling. We're talking to the local hub. We're making sure, is there anything we need to know that's not going to happen this week? So, we're in talks with them every day, all day, across customer service and shipping department. So, we do our best. I know they do, but everyone is wanting things faster now. So, there's a lot of courier drivers out there on the road now.
Yeah, but it's like you say, it's an easy business to get into. There's minimal error when it comes to actually fusing the products and sending them out if you're following all of our lovely YouTube videos online and podcasts.
Yeah, which I invite you to do. The education is free, and it's very rich. It's good content.
Yeah.
I wish I had that 30 years ago. It wouldn't have taken me the first 10 years to learn it.
Well, that was the last one on the list.
Okay.
I'd wished I'd spent more time, not me, obviously. The printer customer had wished he'd spent more time educating himself before he'd started the business, or even just as you go.
Yeah.
You don't have to, it would be good to sit down and educate yourself for a couple of hours before you buy the press, before you talk to customers, that kind of thing. But even as you go, spend 10, 20 minutes a couple of times a week just watching a few videos, and you might learn something that you didn't think you needed to know that would help your business even further.
Yeah, if you're starting out from scratch, business plans, most people yawn when they hear the word business plan. It doesn't have to be really in depth. I'd always ask people, what is it that you're trying to achieve from the business? Define a few objectives, write down just some basic goals, and then, and only then, decide what that looks like with equipment and training and other things. And even then, I wouldn't spend any money. I'd ask as many people as many questions as I could until I got to a point where every time I woke up in the morning, go, what is it that I need to know before I make a decision? And when you realize there's nothing else to ask, you go, now it's time. The danger is on finance or with a card, even when it's inexpensive, £400-500 to get into it, anyone can spend money, and you should look at your education first. So I would ask those basic questions. And watch content. We've got some great content. Styles TV have got some fantastic content as well. And I just self-educate. But like you said, grab a coffee. That's the first expense. Go and get a coffee, sit down and just mull it over. There's loads of tools. You guys have got some great ebooks as well that people can read and digest. And it just poses some questions to yourself before you get going.
Cool. I don't have anything else to add for today. I think that's been really helpful for anyone who's either in the industry or thinking about starting. I think is going to be the biggest one for next year. So thank you for joining us for another episode.
Inviting me. I appreciate it.
Have you got anything else to add, Andy, before we wrap up?
Make sure you try and disrupt your own business when you finish listening to this. What can you do to be better, faster, smarter? And there's lots of great ideas that Martin's put forward today. And try and get a piece of paper and just write down some things you could do. Even if it's just a case of moving the most popular vinyl rolls closer to your cutter, or moving your most popular t-shirts closer to your heat press. Just little things that could save you so much time and open up your capacity to be much higher volume than it already is. Yeah, sometimes you need to step away from the business and look at it from an outside perspective rather than being in it every day. So definitely, we challenge you to take 10 minutes now and sit down and evaluate your business. But that's everything for this week's episode. Thank you, Martin. Thanks, Andy. And make sure to subscribe on whichever platform you are watching or listening on today, and we'll be back next week with another episode.